Hey, what's going on? You're now tuned in to the PVD Horror Podcast. I'm Brandon, and I'm joined by my co-host Dave. And today we have a special guest. We have actor, rapper Paige Kennedy to talk about his new film, A Breed Apart, which is set to release in theaters and on demand May 16th. Paige, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate being on the podcast with you guys.
No doubt, man. So, Paige, man, you grew up in Detroit, Michigan, man. What was it like to sit there and grow up there, and what inspired you to get into acting and rapping?
Man, what was it like growing up in Detroit in the
Yeah,
80s?
yeah,
Ooh,
man.
it, man, it was difficult. It was difficult, but it was fun, you know. Uh,
hmm
it was the interesting thing about like growing up in a beleaguered environment is that when you're in it, you acknowledge the danger, you acknowledge everything that's happening around it, but it's your life, so you can't just like have your life be all bad. So you find ways to find happiness in whatever situation that you are in, right? So I imagine that
Yeah.
even like if you are in jail, there's certain points and parts of it that you try and find like silver linings of, otherwise, it's just all torture. Like so
Yeah.
when I'm able to like look back at it, a lot of times, we remember the negative things the most because they have the most profound effect on us,
hmm
but when you're in it, there's times that there's a lot of laughter. Like when I try and reflect on it now, I think about like my childhood, and I think about like the cartoons that we had,
Yeah.
like the Woody Woodpeckers and the Silverhawks and Thundercats and He-Man, and me not can't wait to get home to watch the box. Like I'm probably dating myself. You probably don't know what the fuck I'm talking about with all of this
The
shit.
black box?
No, the box like is like the rap like videos, you know what I'm saying? Like it was called the box, like and they play like all of the rap videos that would come
Oh,
on
okay.
all the time, like every day, yeah, and you talking about like I also remember like during the times where you get home and you click on the channels that you don't have, and you'll get like a split second of like a
Yeah.
nipple or something, before it gets to like being like, and you just keep
Yeah.
going back and forth. Like, like there's times where you had like fun experiences. But yeah, so for me, I got into one to be an entertainer from Michael Jackson.
Mm.
I was introduced to him like very early on. I saw The Wiz, and
Mm.
you know I said I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be an entertainer. I saw Michael Jackson go on stage and just stand there and have people faint. Like
Yeah.
he didn't even move. He didn't even say anything. He's just standing there, and people pay all this money to go to this concert just to be taken out on a gurney. Like I'm just like, yo, I want to be able to have that type of effect on people because of
Mm.
what I have to offer in my life. And that changed my life. And I, because of Michael Jackson, like I wanted to aspire to be like the greatest entertainer in the world as well, and that's when I got into rap, and the acting stuff came a little later, but I already knew that like that was going to be my future. So, I was a precocious child. Unlike Michael Jackson, I wasn't wonderkin. I didn't have like a level of success at that age, but the spark was flamed by him.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely feel you on that. Growing up, I grew up, I was born in '86. You know what I mean? So coming in as a kid, just all those things. Hip hop. UMTV raps and everything going on. Just everything. So I can understand like just the things that be inspired by around that time. So man, I just want to say congratulations because you have an upcoming release on your sixth album and a film set to drop on the same day. You know what I mean? Some people don't have things going on, but you got two things releasing on the same day. How's that feel for you, man?
Yeah, we call that Paige Kennedy Day. Friday is Paige Kennedy Day. No, but I typically always try to prepare a musical project to come out with, acting project
Hmm.
contemporaneously, so that I can utilize the press for one for both, and I've done that throughout the years. So like when the Meg 2 came out, I
Hmm.
dropped front page,
Okay.
or actually no, I dropped a book of pages. Um, I think when the Meg 2 came out. I don't know. One of them. But I typically, have a project drop, to go along with it. And so it's just exciting,
Hmm.
I have a song in the movie, I was able to have a song in the Meg too as well. And it's just a exciting day to be able to, promote everything.
Yeah. Now, what can fans expect from the new album?
Oh man. So this is probably like my most sonically eclectic album to this date. Excuse me. I chose to, like, typically on my Page Kennedy albums, you're gonna get a bunch of lyrical MCs that you want to hear. And I do that because, for one, I'm fans of their works. Um
Hmm.
Two, sometimes I want to be able to like present them to an audience that maybe not be aware of them, so that they can see like people that inspire me. And then also I want to show that I match up well to the greatest lyricists in the world, that I can be on songs with them and I
Hmm.
can be commensurate to them. And what better way to do that than to have them, like, on features with me, but this time, I wanted this to be just Paige Kennedy. So there are no rap features on
Okay.
the album. It's just me, and I experimented more with this album, far as like the type of songs that I did. They're more current sounding songs, bops you would call her, easy
Hmm.
listen, easy listening songs. Because a lot of times, like with Page Kennedy albums, because I'm a lyricist, because I have something to say, because I'm a man of a certain age, I have music that is substantive, music that is not ephemeral, but like indelible, something that you can listen to forever, because stories never get old, right? So there's certain songs like uh certain Biggie songs, certain Tupac songs, Dear Mama is going to be able to
Hmm.
play forever because stories can't get old, but there are certain songs that are just like now current, vibe or wave that can kind
Right.
of go away. And it was just like
Sure.
and so I typically make music like that, but this time I wanted to be able to have music that you can play at a strip club. I never
Okay.
made a song like that before because I don't even go to strip clubs, but I wanted to have like that in my catalog, and I want to play with my voice, and I want to have songs that you can play at a basketball game, or if you just playing dominoes, or if you just chilling with a girl talking, I wanted to have like an amalgamation of different type of sonics, on this album, so that there's something for everybody. But then you still have like the quintessential type Page songs. Like I have a song that the latest single that just came out called Born of Fire, where
Hmm.
it's like it's reminiscent of Nas I Gave You Power. I don't know if you guys are familiar with
Yeah.
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite Nas song. And so I felt like it would be an interesting thing if I was to rap from the perspective of a bullet, but not just any bullet, the specific bullet that was created and made to be the assassination bullet. And what if this bullet had a conscience? What if this bullet
Hmm.
made a choice to his whole life, his whole essence, his whole upbringing is made to do a certain thing, and he knows that, and that's not, and then that's what he's here for, and that's what he's designed to do. and then choose to make a different decision once the time has come for him to do that thing that he's waited his whole life to do, and tell the story of like the Trump attempted assassination, where
Hmm.
I made it where maybe that bullet made a decision at the last minute to veer off course. And that way it just clipped his ear, but it didn't actually, do what it was supposed to do. But in
Yeah.
doing that, there's still collateral damage that happens because of that, and I want to tell a story from the perspective of that. And so it's introspective songs on there like that as well.
Okay.
So I'm getting this feeling that a lot of your life is about kind of pushing yourself to see like what limits you can reach for yourself, and like how like kind of proving to yourself that you can pretty much do anything. It sounds like this new album is kind of like trying new sounds, trying things that you haven't done before. And like it just sounds like you're really just big into like pushing yourself to the limit of like how far can I go? Like what's my growth potential here?
Yeah, because like I said, I've been in this business. I've been in
Hmm.
the acting business like professionally for 25 years. But then even before that, I was in college. I went to college long enough to be a doctor, to be an actor. So you add, another 6, 7 years on top of that. And then for me as a rapper, I've been a rapper since I was like 6, 7 years old. So that's like my entire life. And
Hmm.
so at a certain point, you know, things that come easy to you and you want to challenge yourself. You want to do different things. You want to, expand your horizon. You want to be great. And so in order to do that, you're going to have to do things that make you uncomfortable. You're going to have to
Yeah.
try things. You're going to have to try and diversify. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like I said, I'm a fan of your career, and I've been, down for a while. So just seeing you just never put yourself in a box, man, like, because you're always on that move for the next thing, like, in the next generation, like from social media to everything, you got your hand in everything. So I just want to say congratulations on that.
Thank you, B. I appreciate it, bro.
Nah, no problem. And also, like we said, we just talk about your rap albums right now. Your Straight Bars album series consistently feature the iconic Jason Voorhees mask from Friday the 13th franchise on all your covers. What inspired that reoccurring theme?
Um, so uh Freddy is actually my favorite. He's
Oh,
like the
okay.
signature slasher to me,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. Um, to me, like, like he's the GOAT, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first did the first straight bars, like that was during a time when there was a lot of mumble rappers out, and I was like dedicated to show that I was like a purist, that I was like a
Mm-hmm.
MC purist, and I'm from Detroit, and I'm gonna just decapitate all of these long hair, dread, gold teeth, mumble rappers with tattoos on their face, and so. I had the iconic like Freddy versus Jason, with Jason coming out of the water holding Freddy's head, with the machete, but
Mm-hmm.
Freddy's still alive, you know, and so I had that because like I had like the representation of like me like chopping the mumble rapper's head off, as I'm coming
All
out.
right.
And because straight bars is I'm not playing no games. It's no gimmicks. It's no hooks. No skits. It's just straight bars. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, I had that mentality all the time when I do those projects, and so that's why that theme had to be consistent all the way through.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I know you said you've been rapping since you were like 6 or 7, so pretty much your whole life. And when you got out of college, I think I had read like you had been touring and opening for Biggie and a bunch of other like big names like Lil Kim, Junior Mafia. I think you were on Looney's was also on that tour. I think I heard you say, and you had some interesting stories about some of those interactions. But I just got to ask you, like, what was it like? You know, what was going through your head during this time with all these like these big names, and you're fresh out of college, you're on tour, you're still pretty young. Like, what's going through your head at that time?
Honestly, I was actually still in college during a lot of these. You know, some of these things were happening like while I was still in school, and so it would just be like spot dates, right? It's not
Yeah.
like I wasn't like actually like on the tour. Like Biggie never actually had like a full on tour. It was just kind of like spot dates that they were doing, and I would catch the ones that would be like in Michigan, so it's like in my
Hmm.
vicinity. I can get to. So if it's in Detroit, if it's in Ann Arbor, it's in Grand Rapids, it's in like, places that I can actually get to, like, while I'm still in school. And it was great. It was exciting. I was able to meet all of those cats, to have them be fans of my music at the time, and the only acting I was doing at that time was like in plays. I was in plays, I was doing
Hmm.
Shakespeare, I was like doing all of that, but like, I was still thinking that I was gonna be, a rapper. And because I was always like the best rapper in my elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and we thought that's what was going to happen for me, but it never actually came to fruition in that sense. But I was able to gain like great respect from all of the OGs, and still have
Okay.
that to this day.
So for you, it was more about getting that respect and having them see your skills than it was like, oh shit, I'm here with Biggie, and like it wasn't like that for you. It was like
No,
I
it was
want them
both.
to see me. It was
I
both of
know
those. Yeah,
I definitely was like awestruck by that as well. But I also knew I had like something to offer too. So these things are not mutually exclusive. I
sure.
think it was all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that must have been a wild time though. I'm sure you saw some pretty crazy things and experienced some pretty crazy things. I can only imagine.
Yeah, like rapper life, especially like in the 90s. Yeah, it was different. It didn't have a lot of cameras involved,
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
and the decorum was different than it is now. It's just such a strange thing that we've progressed so much as a people that we think that we can take our progressions now that we have accrued and we have made, and then we can try and retroactively like place them on, you know, a zeitgeist that those didn't exist necessarily, that the social norms were different,
Mm.
and it's kind of hard to do that, you know what I'm saying? Because if everybody was like work, it's like the speed limit is 60, but everybody's going 80, you kind of have to go 80,
Yeah,
because that's
Mm.
the flow of the traffic. You know
yeah,
what I'm
you got to
saying?
keep it up.
But
Yeah.
but then but then for them to be able to like later send you a ticket and say, well, you weren't going 60,
Mm.
it's kind of crazy because that's not what was happening. So, it's interesting, but that time, that time was that time.
It's really easy to judge things in retrospect and say like, oh, you should have been different. This shouldn't have been this way. But like you said, it's really hard when you're in that moment and everything's kind of going in this one direction. You don't always notice that like maybe I should be doing this other thing. So it's a lot easier in retrospect. I get what you're saying for sure.
Right. Right. Exactly. Like, like I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, right? But let's say, I don't know, in the future, weed so happen to be like such a terrible thing, right? And
Mhm.
then they try and go back and say like that everybody that smoked weed are like these terrible people, and how could they
Yeah.
have done that when it's something that like in the moment that is just like socially acceptable that
Right.
everybody like is doing, but
Yeah.
then later you become villainized for that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Nah, man. But you established yourself in the industry over the years. Your role in Leprechaun Back to the Hood was the first time I saw you on the screen a long time back. You know what I mean? Where can horror, like, were you a big fan of horror before you got into that role? And if so, what were some of your favorite films?
The crazy thing about horror is I'm not the biggest horror fan in the world now. Like I told you, My
Mm,
horror stemmed from slasher movies when I was a kid,
mm-hmm.
especially Freddy Krueger. Like that was like my favorite movies of all time back then. But as I got older and I became an adult, like scary movies didn't scare me really, and I didn't really like the acting or the writing in them. So I didn't care for horror movies as much. But my son is like a big, huge horror fan. That's like his favorite genre, you know. And then when I think about it and I realize like a lot of like my iconic IP of things that you know me for is from horror movies. Like it's from Leprechaun Back to the Hood. It's from The Meg. It's from
Mm-hmm.
A Breed Apart. Like, and these are all like horror movies. So I'm like, damn. Like I say like I'm not like this big huge horror fan, but it don't seem like it. Like I'm really like into
Yeah.
this thing. You know what I mean? Um, but uh yeah, you asked what was like my
Some of yeah, your favorites though. The other, it was Nightmare on Elm Street, but were there any others that like kind of just like messed you up? You know what I mean?
Oh, you know what messed me up for real, like as an adult? Um, because like I said, like the horror movies are not really scary to me, and
Mm.
a lot of them are kind of just stupid. But what messed me up for real? Paranormal activities. Those,
Okay.
all of those. Like, oh my God, man. I remember paranormal activity and I saw it with my son and we came home and his sink was on, like running
Mm.
water. And I'm like, okay, all right, hold on. This was not on when we left. Why is this on now? So that freaked me out, right? So
Yeah.
because that happened, he didn't want to go in his room, right? So we were just sitting out in the living room watching TV and he didn't want to go in his room to go to bed. So he stayed in the living room with me until he fell asleep. Now when he fell asleep, I had to go in my room. And because like I said, I'm on 10 after seeing that, I go into my room and I lock my door. I never lock my door. I never lock my door. I lock my door, and then maybe like 30 minutes after I get in there, I hear a knock on the door. And I'm like, what's up? he's like, Dad, can you come open my door to my room? And I was like, why you can't open your door? Like, I don't want to open the door for my own son because I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is out there, but I'm
Yeah.
not opening this door. I don't give a fuck if you say you my son or not. I'm not opening this door. And if you want your own room door to be, oh, because I also did this like a jerk. His door was open when he went to sleep, but when I was leaving to go to my room, I shut his door.
All right.
So he knows that he didn't shut his door, and so the fact that his door is closed, he like, I'm not opening that door. Let me go get my.
Hmm.
And I refused to open my door for my son because I didn't know he was a monster. So you know what he did? He literally just slept right at the fucking floor of my door at night. He didn't go in his room. He just slept on the floor at my door. He's crying for me to open it, and I just would not. I was like, listen, I could either try and be like tough and open this door and see,
Hmm.
or I could be safe and just. I'm like, hey man, you open your own door, man. Get out my face.
I cannot wait for your son to tell his therapist one day about the night he slept outside of his dad's room on the floor because dad wouldn't open the door thinking he was a monster. That's gonna be the best story to share.
Oh shit! That's the first time I told that story.
Uh,
Oh, shit.
man, as a parent, man, I just want to say congratulations because you and your son have been killing it on social media for a while now, and he's developing his own style while following in your footsteps. What is it like witnessing his development over the years?
First of all, thank you very much for acknowledging that and
Hmm.
and espousing that. Um, and it's exciting, like look, when we have our children, some of us
Hmm.
want to have little facsimiles of ourselves,
Yeah.
like when you had your first boy, you have that boy because you like, yeah, this is a little me. This go you like
Hmm.
that's what you thinking. You thinking, like if Kobe Bryant had like a boy, clearly he probably hoping and wanting it to be the next him. And so are we,
Yeah.
right? So to have my son even want to follow in my footsteps, because they could easily just like shy away from that and go the opposite, or feel like, oh, I'm never going to be able to achieve this level, and so I'm going to just do my own thing, but to have him naturally be like, because this is not something that was forced on him, this is just something that like just naturally he,
Yeah.
and he knew that, and he was just like a natural entertainer, and he's been that way since he was a little boy. I've been recording him on my flip phone since he was like
Hmm.
a kid, you know. And it just progressed into being that. And so I think he's going to like continue the Kennedy legacy, and I'm here to help his maturity, and his burgeoning career, and I support it. And he does things different than me. Like his
Hmm.
his music is not like mine, his look, his way is not like mine, but we also have a lot of similarities. And so I think it's great, and I love it, and I love him.
That's awesome.
So,
So you mentioned earlier how you're Shakespearean trained, and when I saw that, I wanted to ask you about that anyway. What what exactly does that mean for people who maybe don't understand what Shakespearean trained involves or entails, and like what made you want to have that training as part of like your acting repertoire, and how's it helped you with your film projects and TV projects?
So when I first went to college, I went to Grand Rapids Community College, and when I went there, they had a theater major that I went there to play football, and that didn't work out for
mm,
me. I knew I wanted to be an actor because remember I told you from Michael Jackson, I knew that's what I wanted to do. But they didn't have a movie major in a community college.
Mm-hmm.
They only had a theater major. And I realized that like the best actors came from theater. So I was like, okay, I might as well start my training here. Right.
Yeah.
And so I got into theater. When I got into theater, like one of the courses was uh like a Shakespeare 101 or intro to Shakespeare or
mm,
something like that. And when I first got in that class, the first thing that we started studying was A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I couldn't even get past the first paragraph. Like it was the first, we were supposed to read this play, and I couldn't. There's a paragraph, the first one, I couldn't get past that because I was like, I don't understand what the hell this is saying.
mm,
I don't get it. I don't like this. I don't talk like this. I don't know what this is. This is crazy. And I went to class and I explained why I was not prepared to my teacher, Fred Sobolski. And he said, listen, Paige, first of all, I want to tell you, you should really love Shakespeare because you're a rapper. He was the first rapper. He was the first rapper. And when I start to like look at it and see the verse, see it from that perspective, see the stories that were still relevant, and actually get to understand the stories once I got them, once I knew what he was talking about, and
mhm.
how relevant all of this stuff still was even now. Once I start to get into the language, because I'm somebody who loves language, because I'm a lyricist, and because I started learning big words, and wanting to use them, and being able to express myself in that way because of how he writes. Like I fell in love with him. It's just I had to get to the understanding of it because it was opaque for me. But
Yeah.
once that started to happen and I started to understand, I just like he blew me away, and I fell in love with Shakespeare, and everything became about that. When I graduated there and I went to Western Michigan University, I was able to do more Shakespeare. And then so when
Okay.
I went to graduate school, I had all of these schools that were like vying for me to come there, flying me in like I was like a athlete, that they were trying to like pitch me to come there. And one of the prerequisites for me to come was like I needed to be able to do Shakespeare and learn Shakespeare. And so I ended up going to a school, University of Delaware, where they focused on classical theater. So I was able to do that there. And then, I end up leaving there early to come to Los Angeles to start my career. But like Shakespeare, even though I haven't had the opportunity to do it like since I've been here, because they don't do it much. And then when they do, they don't give me the opportunity to do it. I still was able to take certain things that I learned how to do in my acting in Shakespeare to apply to me in my normal acting. And then,
Mm,
I said that one day I'm going to be able to put myself in a position where I am able to do Shakespeare. And so that's what I'm doing now. I've created a project that I want to introduce Black people to Shakespeare by putting it in a zeitgeist that they relate to, and so I've created this thing called Macbeth in Compton, where I'm
yeah, okay.
basically going to place like it's like Shakespeare meets Snowfall, and I'm
Mm.
putting it in
Mm,
the zeitgeist of the '90s rap business in Compton, California, told from the story of Macbeth. And I'm making this project and I'm shooting a short film slash proof of concept of it at the end of the month to go along with the pitch deck that we have. It's going to be a 6 episode anthology where we take a different Shakespeare play every year and then we place it somewhere that resonates with Black people. And I mix hip hop with Shakespeare so that it's like Hamilton on steroids, but we're not like
mm,
rapping Shakespeare. We're
Sure.
doing Shakespeare, but it's sounding like if you imagine Ice Cube saying like Shakespeare. So
Yeah.
okay.
it equates to us, and then it has like hip hop performances that happen within the story organically so that it kind of helps tell the story in that way, so it breaks the monotony of the laborious language so that you actually can like hear it. And because like I have like skill set that's like a unicorn because I do drama as well as I do comedy. I'm
Mm,
Shakespearean trained. I'm an extremely diverse rapper. And so I put all of those things to coalesce together to create this infusion of greatness that we've never seen before.
That's amazing. That's
that's
amazing.
dope.
Love
Can't wait to
that.
check that out, man.
I appreciate it.
Love that.
But I want to say also congratulations on the success of the Upshaws has been getting over the years. I'm glad to see a black sitcom on TV. We definitely needed it. My family's a big fan of the show. My dad hits the group text letting everyone know there's a new season that dropped. I had to ask him, I'm like, dude, is Netflix cutting you a check with these notifications? Because but
That's
he's a
fun.
big fan of it though. So how's that ride been? You know, working with Mike Epps and everyone.
Yeah, it was great. During the time that I was on the show,
Mm-hmm.
I had a wonderful time. It's the first time that I saw a sitcom where you get to cuss on it. So
Yep.
I thought that was really cool. That was really fun to be able to do and be a part of. And Kim Fields is such an amazing actress. I think she's underrated. Wanda Sykes is a legend. Mike is a legend. And I think that we did something special with that.
Definitely. Um, but all I want to say is 8 years ago during an appearance on the Breakfast Club, you were asked what were you more passionate about, rapping or acting, and you stated your primary passion was entertaining people, and that was dope, and it always stuck with me. And like I said, I've been following your career way back then, you know what I mean? So because like even after Leprechaun, it went to like Weeds, and I was just like, even when you left Weeds, I'm like, damn, man, I'm like, I wanted that story to continue, you know what I mean? And then so it was just like ever since then, just seeing you just become, who you are, from social media and everything like that. And you never put yourself in that box. Like I said, you were always just on the go and then seeing what's next. And I know a lot of people don't get their flowers at that time, but man, like you're so underrated and you're not given that respect that you should be getting. And like when your name popped up that we had the opportunity to talk to, man, I was just like, wow, this shit's special because this is a person that really means a lot. Like as I watched you, just even with like your fitness training and everything like that, getting where you were to where you are now, I mean, that's big. And so I just want to let you know that you always been your career has been an inspiration on like moving shit, just like you talk about Michael Jackson and Kobe. Those are just elements that you have to put yourself in the drive. You know what I mean? Because where we are right now, what we created, just be on this level to talk to you, that's crazy because it's like I never thought I would ever have an opportunity to talk to some of these people like, in an industry like this. But like I said, man, you play a big part and a big role in the community of like, kids coming up, looking up to you. So just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, Brandon, man. Those words are not just like fleeting compliments to
Hmm.
me. Words, those words land on me. I'm big on
Hmm.
the people flowers while they're alive to smell them because a lot of times we wait until they're gone and then we make posts about them. Then we say all of these glowing, rhapsodizing things about them, but it's too late. They can't even hear that. And so the fact that you like, shared that with me and the detail that you did, it means a lot to me. I appreciate that.
No, no doubt, man. Now, let's talk about your new film, A Breed Apart. It's set to hit theaters on Friday. Can you tell listeners what this is about?
Yeah, breed apart. Another creature feature for your boy Page. I seem to be attached to those. Yeah, man, they take an amalgamation of social media influencers and they put them together and have them marooned on this island and they're trying to escape and I think a lot of horror and comedy ensues with it.
Hmm.
My character I play Big Farmer Jay. And the interesting thing about that character is initially when this was brought to me, that was not the character. The character was
Hmm.
Farmer John, and it was going to be probably like a big country white boy planet.
Okay.
And the first brothers were amenable to like something new and different and we were able to create this nuanced character that we hadn't seen before of something that like comes natural to me far as the influencer stuff far as the rapper stuff, so it's like easy for me
Hmm.
to do that. But then you have the new heightened element of the farmer thing. That's something that is like do new or different to me, and I found that it would be like an interesting character to do, and we did it and we had a lot of fun filming it in Guatemala. I was really cool with the cast. We all enjoy each
Hmm.
other. We still communicate through group chats. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun, wacky popcorn movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this film's like a loose remake on Wes Craven's film, The Breed. Did you know that going into this? Like, or did you have to do your research to go back and watch the original?
Yeah, I did. I did
Okay.
go back to watch the original. It had one of I call it like Paige Kennedy alums, like Michelle Rodriguez. I did swap with her.
Hmm.
And I went and checked it out back in the day, like when things were like more practical and they had real dogs. Just
Hmm.
so yeah.
Nah, it was funny. The whole time I was watching the film, man, I kept thinking, what would John Witherspoon think of this film? What would his watch along commentary be like? Like, you know what I mean? Saying that, that's your ass, Mr.
That's
Postman.
your ass, man. You would
But
have had a field day going and trying to chase them damn dogs.
Speaking of the dogs, tell me a little bit about like working with dogs and also like working with like CGI or like, special effects versions of the dogs. Like how challenging is it to work with, in the realm of, trying to present like you're being ripped apart or whatever is going on in
Hmm.
the scene. Like talk about some of those challenges and what actual contact did you have with the real dogs? Were they nice?
Yeah, the dogs were actually really nice. So we were worried about how we were going to get them to be ferocious
Yeah,
because
yeah.
but I'm used to like working with stuff that's not there. Like even like in the Meg, there obviously is
Mhm.
not a Meg there. My thing is trying to find the right decorum of the piece of how to react to certain things that are not there. Because like, take for instance, like in the Meg, where you have me downstage, you have me in the forefront, and
Hmm.
supposed to be seeing a Meg coming at us. And I don't know what the rest of the actors is doing. So I don't know if I'm doing too much because I'm all like, oh shit. And Ruby Rose and Jason Statham back there like, bring it on. And I'm like, was I supposed to be doing that? Like, am I doing too much? And so that's like a tough thing of figuring out like what is the appropriate level of scaredness that I'm supposed to be having. Based off of what everybody else is doing. But it was pretty easy to be able to, to do that and navigate through it.
How many dogs did you actually have there present?
Oh, it was a lot of dogs. It
So
was
there
like,
must have been a ton of like the animal trainers and all that stuff. Like those people have such a hard job. Like I just can imagine, you like you said, how do you make a nice dog look ferocious? So there's a lot of work that goes into it. I feel like no one ever talks about that end of it, of the job,
yeah. And like how hard the CGI has to be, especially like on an independent movie. Like this is
Yeah.
not the where you have $100 million to you have like just a litany of different people working on it. This is like a m- modest
Mm.
budget, to
Yeah.
try and create this. So yeah, it's a tough feat, but uh, so you have to give some grace to the CGI, um, but if you turn your brain off and you just have a good time, then you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, So, Paige, before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners where they find you on social media, what you want them to be looking for, and any upcoming projects you want them to be excited about?
All right, so check this out. Obviously, A Breed Apart is coming this Friday. My self-titled album, Paige Kennedy, is also coming this Friday. I really want you to tap into that because like my music is my everything, and I have something for everybody on that. I have two more movies coming later on this year, Code 3 and New Jack Fury. But yeah, let's just focus on this Friday and going to see A Breed Apart, which I have a song in there called Speed, the first song and the first scene, and getting that Page Kennedy album and streaming it and talking about it. I'm
Mm.
not Drake, so the only way that my music is going to disseminate is if people actually do the work, put it on their story, talk about it, say something, mention
Mhm.
it, use the song in your post that you use when you show your pictures or whatever, like help independent artists, get seen, especially like when the music is worth it.
I love that. That's a great
Nice.
thought, and that's a great way to just do a small thing to support an artist that
Mhm.
you care about. Is like just sharing the music on social media like that.
Exactly.
I never even really thought about how impactful that can be because then somebody else is going to hear that, um,
Mhm.
in all your followers. So that's awesome. Uh, Paige, thank you so much for taking this time with us, man. This is amazing. We
I
appreciate this.
appreciate you, Dave and Brandon. Appreciate it.
No,
And thanks so much for the words, B. I
no
appreciate it.
doubt, man. Appreciate
Everybody,
you.
make sure you check out the album, the film this Friday. It's a big day. So get to them both. It's going to be in theaters and on demand, but you definitely want the theater experience as always. And we got to keep
Exactly.
theaters alive. So make sure you get out there, buy your popcorn, buy your drinks, all that good stuff so we can keep enjoying that experience. Everybody, have a great night. We'll see you next week. See you later.
Peace.